Start. I didn't notice. And it's very Lubavitch.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Yeah. Is there Daf Yomi there? So it's also quite Lubavitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we on Chesed Beis by Pshita? Yeah? That we left off?
Exactly.
Pshita.
Yeah.
It's about 11 lines from the top, I think. On Chesed Beis. Look at the other column. So. Okay. I think Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Because of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash. I guess the only thing that we need to know before we start this Gemara is that the three types of collections, which are collecting for damages, collecting for a debt, and a woman collecting her ksuba, comes from the different types of fields that a person could have. Damages comes from the superior, the debt comes from the intermediate, and the ksuba comes from the inferior. Now, if the person that owes all this money sells his fields, he's left with only one, so the rule is that they all go to that one that's left. Now, if the case was that he had sold all his fields and he only left the idiot, only left the best one, they would all collect from the best one. Then when the person buys that one, so that's the one that even by the purchaser, they're all going to go to that one as well. The Gemara starts like this. Pshita. Let's say there was a guy that bought all the fields from the original owner that owed the money. Okay, so he bought fields that were mortgaged, and the field that he bought last was the idios, was the superior type of field, which means that when it comes to collection, everyone's going to go to that one. Now, what we said before was that this guy has the rights to tell the purchaser has the right to tell all the people that are coming to collect. He says, look, I know that you could really take from the idios, from the superior, because that's the one that I bought last. And that's the one that really has the lien on it to all of these collectors. However, the reason why there's a lien on the last field was for my benefit, for the purchaser's benefit. Because the purchaser could always say, I left you a field there that you could collect from. But ultimately, I bought all three fields. And the Takana de Rabbanan, what the rabbis instituted, that they should collect from the field that's remaining by the owner, that was for my benefit. But now that I have all three fields, I don't want you just taking from idios. I'm not accepting what the rabbis instituted, not because they did it for me, not because I have something against the rabbis, just they were doing me a favor. I don't need the favor. I'd rather that everyone take from what they're supposed to get. That's what we learned before. Okay, so now, if Machal Lekeach Beinas is Ziburis, this Lekeach now, this purchaser has resold, right? As he flipped it, he bought it and he sold it. The Beinas and Ziburis, the intermediate and the lowest, the inferior. Bashir this Lafanov, and now he has the idios by him. So he's making things a little complicated because really the idios is what he's supposed to get at, is what the people are supposed to collect from anyway. He can get rid of that by making a claim. The only problem is when he makes that claim, he had already sold it to someone else. Everyone is going to come and collect from the idios. Why? From the superior. Why? Because that was the field that he bought last. And that's the one that really has the mortgage. It's all on that last one. Because the other fields that were sold, that lien keeps getting transferred down to whatever is remaining by the original owner. And then when he buys the last one, that's the one that had all the liens on it. So now that he could have said that I'm not interested in that institution, and I'm going to spread the liens out across all the fields that I own, that I purchased from him, because he purchased the Idias, Beinis, and Ziburis. I know that this was last, but he could spread it out. But now he can't, because he had already sold off the Beinis and Ziburis. But Beinis Ziburis less than Gabe, and he doesn't have the Beinis Ziburis anymore. The Matzi Lameima Lahu, that he should be able to tell to the Balchoif, to the creditor, and to the woman that's collecting Ksuba. They should be able to tell them, Gavu mi Beinis Ziburis, you go collect from Beinis Ziburis, the Leinichli Betakanta de Rabbanim, because it's not good for me that what the sages instituted, that you should be able to, that you should collect from the last one that was sold. I don't need that. You can't say that anymore. Okay. Aval machar idias v'shir beinis ziburis. The only question is, well, let's say it went the other way. Let's say he bought beinis, the original owner. Let's say his name's Reuven. Reuven is the original owner, and he has all these collections, all these things going on. He damaged, and he has a creditor, and he also divorced his wife. Poor guy, Reuven. Now he sold all his fields. Now the order that he sold his fields was first he sold the Beinis and Ziburis, and then he sold the Idias. Okay, he sold it to Shimon. So now Shimon goes ahead and he sells not the Beinis and Ziburis, but he sells the Idias. So the Idias was the one that had the lien on it before, and now it made it to the second guy. The Shimon has the Beinis and Ziburis, and Levi has the Idias. Now it's already flipped twice. So what would be the din over there? Should everyone go and collect from the Idias, because that was the one that had the lien on it? So Savar Abaya Lameimar Asad Kula Gavim Idias. Abaya thought to say, Savar means to think. It also means to hold, but it means to hold. He holds because that's what he thinks. So that's what he holds. But Savar means to think. Savri Maranan, pay attention, gentlemen. Right? Savar means to think. One of the taichin of Inichalelachi is Saberu. That the eyes of everyone, to you, they think. It really means think with hope. They hopefully think. But it has the word in there of, even though that's a sin and this is a samach, but same concept.
That's an ashrei.
An ashrei, right?
So sovereign, is that Aramaic?
Yeah, Aramaic. It means pay attention.
They just put that part that's Aramaic, and the rest is kind of
Hebrew. The blessings are in Hebrew, but when that's talking to the crowd, to pay attention, I'm about to say a blessing. Everyone should concentrate. So Savri Maranan is gentleman. Okay. Savar Abaya Lameimar, Abaya thought to say, Asukula go from the Idias. Everyone is going to come and collect from the Idias. They're going to go to Levi. So the field that was by Reuven, that transferred to Shimon, that was sold to Shimon, and now it's by Levi, that's what they're going to collect from. Okay.
So the lien is attached.
Yeah.
So the last one sold even.
That was the one that had the mortgage on it.
the liens on Idias.
The lien is on the Idias.
Because it was the last
It
one.
was the last one that was by Reuven.
If Shimon would have been a little bit smarter, he would have bought the idiots first and left.
Yeah.
The
Right.
not as good one.
Exactly.
As last.
Exactly. Hillel is suggesting that we give advice to Shimon, in retrospect, that he should have bought the Idias first, then the Beinis, then the Ziburis, and then he wouldn't have had this trouble. But he didn't realize that. He didn't know he was going to buy all the guy's fields. The guy had one field for sale. He bought the Ziburis first.
This is the order of purchase. Oh, is this? Oh, this is the. Oh.
I would think that once they got transferred, that they wouldn't.
No, it would get transferred over. The lien is on the field. However, Amalei Rava says to Abaya, Ma macha rishon l'sheni. What did the first person sell to the second person? The first person over here being Shimon. What did Shimon sell to Levi? Kol's choshet tavali yadai. Any right that he has, he sold to Levi. Ukivan de'ilu asu gabi lakeach rishon. Since if he would come to the first purchaser, which is Shimon, Matzi agvilu mibenis v'ziburis, he would be able to collect from the beinus and ziburis. In other words, if the creditor, we didn't say the creditor's name, the creditor here is Yisachar, well, and all the others, and then Nizakin is I don't know, Zvulun, and the wife's name is Dina. So if they all come to Ruvain, not if they come to Reuven. Come to Reuven, they collect each one according to their type. They all come to Shimon. Shimon had bought Idias at the end, right? Shimon is able to say, even though I bought Idias at the end, and that's the one that the mortgage is on, but since that institution that the mortgage should only be on the last one was for my benefit, and now I'm not interested in that because now I have all three fields. I'd like for each of you to collect from each of those. Since Shimon is allowed to say that. So when Shimon sells the Idias over to Levi, not only does he sell him the Idias, but he also sells him the right to make that claim that I don't need at the sage's institution. And so therefore, Levi can say the same thing, that it's just like Shimon would have been able to say that you can't all collect from the Idias. And he sold me his field. So I'm coming from the rights that Shimon had to be able to make that claim. And I don't want you all collecting from this. I bought the whole field with everything, all the rights that come along with it. But since Shimon could have said that I want you to collect from the Beinus Ziburis, even though when I purchased the Beinus Ziburis, the Idias was still Bnei Chayrin, was still not sold, was still by the original owner, and therefore everyone has to collect from the Idias. But since that's an institution that was made for my benefit, I'm not interested in that institution. So therefore, therefore the second purchaser, which is Levi, can say the same thing that Shimon could have said. Gavi Beinus Ziburis. Collect from Beinus and Ziburis, which means go back to, now he's saying go back to Reuven. No, not to Reuven. Go back to Shimon. Reuven doesn't have anything. Go back to Shimon and collect the Beinus Ziburis. The Chizavan Lakeach Sheni Adai to the Kol Zchus Davle L'Rishon B'Gavei Zavan. Because when the second purchaser buys it, he buys it together with all the rights that the first purchaser had. Okay, that's Rava's claim back to Abayim. Basically, in summary, there were three fields that Reuven had. He sold all of them to Shimon in the order of Ziburis, Beinus, and then the Idias. So when it comes to collection, everyone should really be collecting from the Idias. But then Shimon sells the Idias over to Levi. So Abaya held that all the creditors, they go to Levi to collect. Rava said no, that just like if they would have come to Shimon, Shimon would have been able to spread them out to the different fields. So when he sells that Idias to Levi, he sells it with that right to be able to make that claim as well. He spreads them out to all the different fields.
Why does Shimon have to be the one to allocate those fields to everyone?
Well, Shimon owns all three fields. Beginning, right? Well, so mortgage was on the last one that he purchased, which is the Idias. But he says that institution was just for my benefit, and I don't want that.
So in that case, I guess Shimon, the original Lokeach, he still, let's say he still has two of the fields.
Right.
He sold the third one, and the Malva comes to collect his money, and he can say, "Sorry, Charlie, I go get it from somebody else. I still have two of the fields, but I sold the one that was shielded to you."
Yeah.
That comes out
Exactly.
too.
Exactly. In this case, the one that had the shibud to him was the Idias, because that was the one that was purchased last. So according to Abaye, it could send them to get the Idias.
Wow.
Yeah, and according to Rava, no. Now the halachas would be according to Rava. We always pass like Rava, right? Except in 6 cases. Remember that? Always pass like Rava.
I'm not sure if I'm this example is that he sold Is that like a later example?
You're ahead of me. Ahead of me. Okay. I'm a Rava. New case over here. Rava says, Reuven shemacher kol sedeis of l'Shimon. Reuven sells all his fields to Shimon. Okay. V'halach Shimon amacher sada achas Levi. And then Shimon goes and sells one field to Levi. Over here, we're going to say we're talking about that he sold the intermediate field. That's the one that's what's going to come up.
The one that was all fields at once.
Yeah, he sold them all at the same time. And Reuven's Balchayv, his creditor, the one that he borrowed money from, now he has to pay it back. He shows up and he sees that all the fields that he was going to collect from, they're not there. They're they're still there, but they don't have the same title on them, right? It's a new title. They belong to Shimon, except for one of them, which is now by Levi. So he could either go to Levi to take the field that's rightfully his, which is the Baininus, which is the one that when he borrowed the money, that was the main one. Or he can go to Shimon and collect from the Idias or Ziburis. The reason why we're saying this, that he can go to Levi, is because the field that he sold to Levi was the one that was really for him, was the Baininus. That's the average one, right? The intermediate one, that was the one that goes to the creditor. But if he sold the Idias and Ziburis, then Levi can't take those. I'm sorry, then he can't go to Levi to take them. The creditor can't take it from Levi. Because Levi will say, I knew that you're coming. I looked in the files in the courthouse and I saw that there's a lien on the property. And I saw which property it was the Baininus. So when I purchased property, I saw this property for sale. I made sure to purchase the Idias and Ziburis. So I avoided you from having to deal with you. And even if he did purchase Baininus, he can still say that I left over Baininus for you. I checked in the property and I saw that there was another Baininus field. So I only purchased one. I saw how much it was your debt was, and I saw that how much we had left there, and so that's it. Because then, but if he purchased all of that, then he can't say that I left you by Shimon. I will share Baininus to say Gabi Shimon like Gabi. Then, but if he did leave intermediate field by Shimon, which was appropriate for the creditor, then he can say that I don't want you to collect from me. I was careful the way I purchased this, and it's you have to go back to Shimon, the first purchaser, don't come to me. I'm the second purchaser. He says I left you property from what to collect from. Okay, that was a din that was presented to us by Rava. That in certain cases the creditor can go either to Reuven. Reuven sold the fields, either to Shimon or to Levi to collect his debt based on what field Levi purchased, even though it's already been sold twice. But if it's exactly the field that was supposed to go to the creditor, then he can even take it from Levi. That's only if Levi didn't leave over a Baininus that was like that. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Reuven shemacha sada l'Shimon b'achrayas. I think usually when you sell a field, you sell it with a guarantee. You sell it with achrayas. That if someone takes it away from you because they claim that they are the real owners to it, then you could go back to the seller and say, "Give me my money back, or give me another field, or something like that." There's some sort of guarantee in it, but that's discussion in Bab Metzia achrayas to sefer. If it wasn't written in there, is it automatically considered there, right? Right, that's a discussion. Over here, we're talking about where he wrote that there's achrayas. Reuven shemacha sada l'Shimon b'achrayas. Reuven sells a field to Shimon. Also balchayv de Reuven v'tarif mi Shimon. So the creditor comes to Shimon, says that's the field that belonged to Reuven, and Reuven owes me money, and I'm taking it. Reuven obviously doesn't have any fields left. Well, Dina who does a Reuven Mishtoi Dina Badei. So in court, when this creditor is coming to Shimon, and Shimon's trying to defend his purchase that he wants to keep the field, so Reuven is allowed to show up in court and discuss with the creditor, saying that I don't think that I really owe you the money, because it involves Reuven, of course.
Reuven received the money from the sale, so the creditor should take whatever is remaining.
Right. Right. Reuven doesn't have it. The creditor says, I'm not chasing Reuven around. I have a lien on the field. I'm just taking the field. He wants the field. Reuven doesn't have money. He would have taken the money. The only thing is Reuven says, I don't have it. He said, okay, I'm not waiting around. I can take the field. Yeah, he spent it. He has a gambling problem.
Sometimes, like the lien is on the property, not like on the actual person.
Right.
Like this happens today, but when you buy, like the safest title is a warranty deed. Warranty deed means that anything that comes up is covered with that title company. Now, when a house is bought in an auction, they come with different types of deeds, and then the buyer like assumes responsibility for anything that comes up. It's not as protected.
So this is a warranty deed. That's what you're saying.
It covers everything. Anything that comes up, the title insurance covers.
So Reuven, what Abaye is saying is that Reuven is allowed to come into the court and discuss with the creditor, saying, you're taking away a field. I want to discuss with you if I really owe it to you. And the creditor can't say, Reuven, go home. I'm not discussing this with you anymore. You owe me the money. I'm taking the field from Shimon. Why? Why can't he say that? Because Reuven can say, if you're going to take it from Shimon, he's coming back to me. You think you only have a court case with Shimon? You don't have a court case with Shimon. You have a court case with Shimon and me. Because Shimon's going to come to me to take the money. So basically, you're taking it from me. So I want to now discuss with you what's Ikadamri, that those that say, that even if Reuven sold the field to Shimon, and it's like what would it be, like an as is that what they call it? And they say, I'm taking zero responsibility. You want to buy it? This is like a surprise box at the Chinese auctions, like you don't know what you're going to get. So I'm selling it to you, but it is what it is. Take it or leave it. That's even if he sells it like that now, so the creditor shows up to Shimon, and the creditor is taking the field from Shimon. So Shimon cannot go back to Reuven and say, what did you sell me? You sold me a field that said, look, that's what we made up. It was that was buy at your own risk. So, but nevertheless, Reuven can still come up to the court case according to this Ikadamri, and he can say, even though Shimon can't take me to court to get money out of me, but he can still say that I'm a scoundrel. He's going to be angry with me. He's going to say that I sold him, a piece of paper that had no value. So I don't want him to be angry at me. I can still go to court and I can argue with the creditor and claim that I don't really owe you the money. That's this. Amar Abaye. Abaye also says, Reuven shemacher sadul Shimon shlei b'achrayis. If Reuven sells a field to Shimon, and it's this as-is type of field, there's really no guarantee on what happens after this. It's a sale. He probably sells it for less if there's no achrayis. I mean, who would buy it like that? It must be it's a little cheaper. Yatzo la'asikin. Asikin means that people started to contest. People started to contest what's going on. They're claiming that it's not really yours. He starts to get like letters in the mail and phone calls and different things. That you're on this property. You should know that has to say, don't call me again. All the collection people. Anyway, there's a problem over here. So he realizes there's trouble. He didn't make a chazaki yet in the field. He had just purchased it, and already the calls start coming. he's able to retract, he's able to get out of the sale. He didn't make a chazaka. Did he give the money already? Rashi says in Bava Metzia, the Gemara, the Taisus quotes that it works the other way. It sounds like he gave the money already, and he gave the money, but he didn't do a chazaka. Problem is that you acquire a field with money, right? No, karka niknas, kesef shtar chazaka. You can acquire a field with money, but over here, for some reason, the chazaka is the main thing. Money. So, but once he made a chazaka, we're going to see what a chazaka is. Then he isn't able to get out of it. In other words, he sees that he's going to have trouble from this field. He wants to get out of it. He's not going to be able to once there's a chazaka. My timer. What's the reason? How is he allowed to get out of it? He tells to the original seller. He tells to Ruvain. Let me see. Yeah. Shalom, you want to show which page? Help him find the Testament Manalef on the top. Damalei Chayisa the Kitri Sabris V'Kablas. A bag that has knots in it that was like stuffed up, one of these I don't know if it's a balloon, not a balloon, it's like the thing at the Chinese auction, is the surprise box.
The Russians have the same a cat in a bag.
A cat in a bag? Yeah. What does that mean?
You don't know where you're getting. It's like,
also the little things, figurines. Take them out, another one comes in.
Yeah.
Little, very tiny.
Yeah, no, but here it's saying that you bought something that was a closed box and you don't know what's inside. So that's it. We're saying over here that he is not able to get out of it once he made a chazak on it. He says it was an as-is sale. There's no returns. You bought it on the clearance rack by an auction. Is that how it works by the auction?
people thought that they were buying these mansions for 50, 100K. And yeah, they bid on that lien. But they realized that the house was worth $1 million and had a $3 million worth that they were basically buying a debt. Better off losing the 100,000.
Hill is saying by the crash, which was what year? 2008. The people were buying these mansions on auction. They thought they were getting a great deal, but it turned out that it had much more debt on it than the value of the property. They were really just buying debts, and then they can't sell it. They're stuck with it.
It was better off to lose the 100K, 200K.
You can't make it ownerless. And say
in America.
It's Hefker. The house is Hefker. It and all its debts.
It depends because some liens they stay.
You can't. You're stuck. It's stuck. It's like attached to your passport. Okay.
I think the issue there is that the associations were in big debt also, so they end up having to. I mean, usually other things are disclosed in the house, but the association is
because they bought them on auction, so they don't say when it's an auction, they don't say everything.
It's quick. Like people have to do their research, but not everyone know like the research, and the research costs money. And a lot of times they were buying the debt of a line of credit, but the first, second, third mortgage they still owe those mortgages.
So now the Gemara asks, when can you not get out of this? When are you stuck? It says, it means when you walk along the borders. Okay, that's the chazaka for this, regarding this. The dafka shalei b'achrayas, but this is only if he bought the field shalei b'achrayas, without any, it was just as is sugazant. without any guarantee. Aval b'achrayas loy. But if it was with achrayas, if he bought it with a guarantee, so then it works like this. See, really, what's going on over here is that no one showed up yet and actually got the field the way out of his hand. He just starts to get phone calls and letters that this field really belongs to this and that, and you owe it to me, and the things, and there's he starts to see that this is a problem, so he wants to get out of it. So we're saying that if he didn't make a chazaka, he can still get out of it. But if he did make a chazaka, then he's stuck. He made a chazaka, then he's stuck. Now,
even oral chazaka?
no, chazaka means that he actually, the Gemara said that he walked along all the borders of the field. He surveyed the field. Once he did that, surveyed the field, then it's his. We're talking about it seems like that he paid for it all.
Or he plowed.
Yeah, well, that would also be a chazaka. I don't know why.
That's the final kinyan.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why over here it needs to be specifically this type of.
Well, he has to do something to the land.
Yeah.
If you wanna, it's here, you gotta lift it up.
Yeah, but by land, it's different. You do something to the land. Okay. So Tosfos, I see Tosfos is saying that we're talking about where he did not give the money yet. How the Rambam writes that it's talking about where he did give the money. Yeah, like we have said before, whenever it's possible to read it different ways, there's going to be a machlaikas. So okay, so if there is achrayas, if there is a guarantee on this land, so then since later on you're going to be able to come back and get your money back, so we should say it. We say already from now that look, I'm going to come back to you. The sale's off. Why should I wait for it to be taken away and then I'll come back to you? The sale's off now, even if he made a chazak, because he shouldn't have to wait. However, Vikadamri, that those that say that that's not how it works. Even if he has a guarantee on it, he still cannot go back and say I want my money back. If you want to come back on this sale, then show me the document that the field was taken away from you, and then I'll give you the money. But until then, you just ignore the phone calls, ignore all that mail and phone calls. Everyone's saying that the property is not yours and all of that. Ignore it. When it comes on, when it's actually taken away, I'll pay you. That's the.
You don't need windows for that chazaka.
Probably do. Yeah. Okay. Now the Gemara goes back to a discussion that we said before regarding whenever someone's making a payment, he has to pay from the best of his property. We had a contradiction because we had another statement that says that a person could use subin, he could use brand to make his payment. So how do we resolve that? Now Rav Huna comes in and says, Rav Huna Amar oy kesef oy meitav. Either he can give actual money, or he can give the best of his property. So it's either money. He has only two choices. Yeah, you asked this like over here. We said that even things that aren't money, anything that's movable is considered acceptable. Rav Huna, what it sounds like right now is he's saying it's either actual cash, not bran or not anything like that, or meitav, or the best of the property. Eser Rav Nachman Rav Huna, Rav Nachman asked Rav Huna, Yoshev l'Rabbis Sheva Kesra Afilu Subin. That it says that he could even pay with bran. Doesn't have to be actual cash, actual coins. It says we're talking about where he doesn't have actual coins, he doesn't have field, so therefore he can pay with bran. Either lastly, pshita. If he doesn't have anything, of course, you take whatever the guy has to get your money. Says Mao the Tema Zil Tarach Bezav and Vaisli Kesef. Could have thought that maybe we tell the guy that owes the money, we tell him, you go sell it and you turn it into cash and then I'll take it. So Kamash Malan, we say that no, that if he doesn't have it, you can you don't tell him that he has to get it, but you have to take whatever he has. He says, look, this is what I got. Take it or wait. Okay. Amar
So it
Avasi.
works like that.
It does work like that.
It works like that in Israel.
If someone owes money, let's say he has a lot of credit card debts or something, he's not paying it up. What happens? Yeah.
Then they
You
go
get
back.
credit to the floor.
And how do they get the money if you just,
They'll take it to court and then you have to settle like payment agreement.
They have a judgment lien on anything, so anything that most of the time people are hiding the stuff, so you have to find it. Seize it.
But let's say the guy has a car and another car and he has another thing and will the court seize what he owns and will take it?
Yeah, whatever can be sold first, it's like first come, first serve, whatever you can liquidate and sell.
Uh-huh.
So it's most easily liquidated, put it that way.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It's here that in Florida they protect like the person's primary home.
The primary home they don't take away, right? That's the
Right, that's homestead.
uh-huh. What is included in that? A car?
No, just your house.
Uh-huh. And what about if it's for work? Things that are for work? Like
Doesn't matter.
they take it. Wow.
But that would be very smart. How are you gonna keep this money?
Yeah. But I guess they just want it right away. They don't obviously you're claiming that you're doing work, but
They negotiate the credit person. Original lender, all the people you should buy that debt for a cheaper price, and they go outside buy it to sell it for lower price because they're getting it for a lower price. Because the bank has no hope to get the money.
Right. These collection things and stuff. Amar Ravasi. Ravasi says, "Ksafim Mariam Kikarka," that money is just like land. Okay, the Gemara says, "Lamai Helchasa." What are you talking about? Money is like land. Ile Millennium Meitav. If it's regarding Meitav, that means you're supposed to pay from the best fields, and now you're not paying from the best field. You want to pay with cash. So cash is like Meitav. Okay. Haina de Rav Huna, but 1 second, that's what Rav Huna said. So what is Ravasi coming and adding to Rav Huna? I think they're in the same time. So Ella l'shneachim shecholku v'nat lechet karka v'echet ksafim babal chayiv v'natal karka dazal hai v'shakal palga b'ksafim ba'adei. What happened was like this. There's two brothers. They inherited a property. They inherited more than property. They inherited, one took the property and one took the cash. Comes along the creditor. He goes to the one with the property. And he collects the debt from the property. So the brother that lost all his whole inheritance, the whole property, he goes to the person that took the money and he says, "Look, I paid up the debt from the father. Now I want half the cash." So Pshita, the Gemara says that's obvious. Hi brava, hi labra. Only one of them is a son, the other one's not a son. Only one of them has to pay for the. Of course, he has to what's it called, to reconfigure that division. Ikadamri, there are those that say that actually you don't have to do that because Adarabba. On the contrary, liidachkis, you say the other way. The reason why I took the money was because the meganvi naminach. If the money gets stolen, I'm not going to come to you and say, "Give me some of the land." That was my risk. I took that risk. I took the money. And you took the land. And that you took the land. That if someone's going to extract the land in payment for whatever the lien there was on it, you can't come to me. Just like I'm not coming to you when it gets lost. The cash gets lost.
That lien was before the purchase of the property. With that lien.
No, we're not over here. We're talking about the father passed away. He left the property to the son and cash. One of them takes the property, one takes the cash. Now the father had a debt, so the debt had a lien on the property. So when he takes the property, so one version of the Gemara is that he can that he chose the land, you don't check. The one that chose the land can now go to the brother and take half the cash. The other opinion, right? The other opinion says that no, he can't. Just like the one that the cash says, look, if I lose it, I wasn't going to come to you and take half of it.
So it depends. They both hold value, right?
Yeah.
The value of the property is X, and the value of the cash is C. Both need to be equal prior to the knowing of that debt. Once you know about that debt, that's supposed to be subtracted.
To reconfigure, right? No, they can collect from orphans the property. They can take property from the orphans if they have a document. So what we're thinking about now is, what does Ravasi mean when he says that that cash is like land? Either it's obvious, or we say no, it's not like land. Rather, but the din of Ravasi, not Ravashi. Ravasi, sorry?
Snapshot of what took place in the home.
Yeah. We're talking about two brothers that divided the same property. They each took land. And the creditor comes in and takes one of the properties. So the other guy has this choice. He can either split the property with the brother, or he can say, I don't want to split the property. I can give you cash as well to buy him off, and he can keep the property that was in his thing. So when Ravasi said that cash, that money is like property, it means that he could pay off the brother for this.
Obviously, the brother needs to accept that.
Right. Ravasi chadazimna. 1 second. This is what Ravasi means, that kesef is like property. Ravasi said this already once. Ditmar, we have a statement. If brothers divided a property, and then a creditor comes and collects from one of them. So we have a three-way machlaikas now. Rav Amar Batla machlaikas. Rav says you have to redo the whole thing. We didn't have this when we started the division. Yes, you ever have to do this? You ever missing a piece of information, and then after the whole division, this comes up with one piece of information you didn't have. You have to redo the whole thing. It's good for the lawyer. You get paid again. Shmuel Amar Viter. Shmuel says that it's his loss. We already made the division, and he lost. It's too late. Ravasi Amar Naitel Revia Bakarka Revia B'Mais. Ravasi says you take a quarter of the property. Ravasi is going to say there's a doubt. Instead of taking half, you can only take a quarter. You can only get a quarter back because we have a doubt. We'll see in a minute. It's in the either take property or you either take money. Now our question is, there's two versions of in Rashi and Tosfos argue over here what this means. But what we're saying now is that Ravasi already said that he can pay him off with money. So Rav Amar, the Gemara goes back to explain why there's a three-way machlaikas here. Rav Amar Batla machlaikas, that the whole division has to be redone because we were missing a piece of information here. We didn't know this creditor was going to come in and take this field. When brothers divide up the property, they're inheritors, and it has to be divided equally. They remain inheritors. Once they make the division, once they take it out of this estate, then they're considered like purchasers. So they have certain rights to this estate. They have like tokens or credits to the estate. You can take 5 credits. Each one takes whatever he wants. He's like a purchaser. Then whatever happens afterward, that was what you bought. You bought that.
You're supposed to check prior.
Check beforehand. Not only that, but you're like a purchaser that bought something without any guarantees. It's like an as-is purchase. Ravasi says that you take only a quarter of either the land or the money. He has a doubt. Do you go like Rav, or do you go like Shmuel? Is he considered like inheritors, or is he considered like a purchaser without a guarantee? So does he lose it? So therefore, Hilkach Neitel Ravia Bakarka or Ravia B'mais. He either takes a quarter of the land, or he takes a quarter of the money. Okay, I just read this Gemara according to the first version of Rashi, and Tosfos in the second version of Rashi say a little different. They say that it's a question of if it's a lekeach ba'achrayas or lekeach shlei ba'achrayas. Is he considered a purchaser with a guarantee? And so therefore, if he's like an inheritor, then he gets half the property, and he can't give him money. If he's like a lekeach, like a purchaser, then he gives him the money. So therefore, what we do is, because we have a doubt what he is, if he's like an inheritor, like a purchaser that gets the money back, so then we give him not just a quarter of what he was really supposed to. You see, should he get half of the other field? So because of a doubt, according to the first shot, you can't give him the whole half that he really deserves, because we don't know if he's deserving it, so we just divide it in half. And money that has a doubt in it, you divide it. And so he gets half of what he really should get. The other guy ends up with 3/4, and he gets only 1/4. Half the inheritance is gone now. There's Reuben and Shimon, right? Yaakov was the father. Yaakov left them an inheritance. Reuben and Shimon each took a field. Reuben's field gets taken away by a creditor. So Shimon's field, we don't divide it in half and give half to Reuben. We take off a quarter and give it to Reuben, because we don't know if he really gets the whole half. There's a question over here. If he's like a purchaser that doesn't have a guarantee. That's the first shot. Second shot is that we actually give him all the value. We give him half. We give him a quarter of the field plus half of it in money. Because if he would be an inheritor, then he gets half the field. We don't know if he's an inheritor. So we say that maybe he's a purchaser. The purchaser gets not the field, but the purchaser gets his money back. So we would give him a quarter of it in property and a quarter of it in money, and the two halves equal a whole half. A half of, because they divided the inheritance.
What happens to the property that is not distributed, because it only gets a quarter?
No, it gets 3/4.
Oh,
yeah.
And the creditor would like divide the property and just take a piece.
You take whatever he's owed. Yeah. It could be a portion of it. Okay, there's two pshatim here. So, okay, the Gemara says all of this was all a question that why does Ravasi need to say that money is like property? He said it already. You can pay him instead of giving him property. It says Elamai Harin Kakarka. What does it mean that money is like property? It's like real estate. Linyan Meitav. It's regarding Meitav, regarding that you can pay it instead of paying from the best if there's a damage. But we said 1 second. Ravuna already said that. Why do I need Ravasi to say it? Ema v'chein amar Ravasi. It's not Ravasi saying something different. What we wanted to say is Ravuna says it and Ravasi says it. That if you want to pay cash, that's good, just like Meitav. Yeah. Okay. We're holding now. Amar Abzeir Amar Ravuna. Abzeir says in the name of Ravuna, the mitzvah ad shlish. This is a very, very famous Gemara. When it comes to a mitzvah, you pay up into a third. My shlish. What do you mean a third? Third of what? If it means a third of everything that you own, that means if a person, it becomes sukkahs. The person owns $1 million, so he's going to give 333,000 for his esrog. If that's the case, if he is going to have 3 mitzvahs, one after another, he's going to lose his whole house. Now, Taisus points out that that's not how thirds work. It's a third of what you have left. But nevertheless, it's a large amount of money that the person is going to have to give. So, Elam Rab Zera says, "Behider mitzvah shlish b'mitzvah." Rab Zera explains what it means is that when you're doing a mitzvah, it costs money to do a mitzvah. Doing a mitzvah, so you can get the bare minimal esrog. Let's say for a kosher esrog, let's say you can get it for $75 kosher esrog. So $75 a kosher esrog. So what you do is you take a third of 75, 25, and you buy it for 100. So you add on a third of the original mitzvah. You add it on for the hiddur, to beautify the mitzvah. That's how you would divide it. Now the Gemara has a question. Boy, Rabashi says shlish milgav, shlish milbar. How do you figure out a third? The way I just explained it is called the shlish milgav. I take the price, and it's was 75 was the price, and I said that you divide it into 3, so it's 25. But there's another way of doing it. The other way is shlish milbar, shlish from the outside. What you have to do is you have to take 37.5, which is half of 75, right? You have to take 37.5, and then throw it on top of the 75. What is that? What would that be? 113. It's not 13. It's 100 and what is it? No, so it is 113. Okay, so you have that, and that's because now you have 3/3.
113.
113. They have 3/3 of altogether. It's from the outside. It means you add on a third to make it into. You add on a half to make it into a third. You have to divide it in half. One opinion over here. To make it a
third or a half.
Yeah, but everyone says it's a third. The question is, how do you measure the third? Do you measure the third by dividing what you have already, or do you measure it as a third after you've added it on? The same way we had a good discussion about a fifth, right? So, interesting. Taisvus over here says that if you find if there's an esrog that's the size of a walnut, which that's the basic size of an esrog, then you should get one that's a third bigger than that. I didn't know that the size of the esrog was a hiddur. A bigger esrog is bigger the esrog, the more mahudr it is. That's what apparently.
So the walnut is very small.
You need like 2 hands.
Walnut. Walnut, you said?
A walnut is the smallest size,
small.
yeah.
Oh, the smallest size.
Yeah, minimal size of an esrog. Rashi over here says, talks about the mitzvah. Says, Isna lefana b'mitzvah, so seilecha sefer Torah na lulav na talis na tzitzis na. Rashi adds in that the talis is also, to get a nice talis is also hiddur mitzvah, besides for the tzitzis. That the garment itself, I have an interesting question. That if the talis goes under the category of hiddur mitzvah, then maybe you should say you should purchase a nice house so that your mezuzah, it's a hiddur mitzvah of the mezuzah.
Or just get
No, we already said the tzitzis. If we compare talis and tzitzis to house and mezuzah, so Rashi mentions that you need to do hiddur mitzvah on the tzitzis. He also says you need hiddur mitzvah on the talis.
What's
that would mean the tzitzis hang on the garment.
Oh.
So I'm saying the mezuzah hangs on the house. According to this, you should have to get according to this Rashi, you should have to get a nice house in order to put the mezuzah on. Anyway, they say that's not how the house doesn't become an object of a mitzvah just because you put a mezuzah on it. The tzitzis becomes the talis. The talis becomes a chefta shel mitzvah when you put tzitzis on it. It becomes part of the mitzvah. But your house has a mezuzah. It doesn't mean your house is a mitzvah. It's somehow it doesn't match perfectly tzitzis with the talis.
It's like people trying to find a way to make it. Oh, I got a nice car.
Yeah. I got a nice car because I keep a chitas in it. So I needed a nice holder for my chitas. Okay. So Teku, the Gemara doesn't know the what's the answer to this. Now, the Marav Amri about how to divide the thirds. Marav Amri Mishmei the Rab Zera Achlish Mishalei Mikan Ve'el Mishal Kadosh Baruch Hu. So, there's two pshatim over here. One pshat is that you add a third. That is your own money. But if you add more than a third, then Hashem pays you back. That's one pshat. Rabbi Nechananel has a pshat that if you made the money naturally, then you give 1/3 of the money that you made naturally. But if you made the money through a miracle, then that you give all for the mitzvah. Then you pay more than a third. If someone like wins a lottery, then it doesn't go by a third. He says, this is, I might have win the lottery, it's for the mitzvah, and he gives more than a third. That's Rabbi Nechananel's pshat over here.
What would be? It's more than a third? Yeah, half?
It doesn't say how much. We can't ve'elach. Kol zeh miyigiyai shechayev kodim l'hed mitzvah. Avalem zimin le'akadosh baruch hu mamen shlei miyigiyai. If Hashem provides a person with money that he didn't even work for, and he wants to do a mitzvah, then he can give even more than a shlish. He can give even more than a shlish. It doesn't say that he has to, because he can give. It says over here we limit what a person is allowed to spend on a mitzvah to a third. Over here, if he had extra money that came without any effort, so then he finds a treasure, then he's allowed to spend more than a third.
That's really in the eye of the beholder, right? You could be on a level where you realize that everything is from Hashem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our account,
Pays you back is according to yeah. Usually the reward for mitzvahs doesn't come in this world. So it's but over here, if you spend more than a third on the Hiddur mitzvah, yeah, I think it's relevant also for using Meiser money. I think if you want to use Meiser, you're allowed to use Meiser money for a mitzvah. Officially, it's supposed to go to the poor, but we allow you to. We say that you can use it for other mitzvahs as well. So if a person's going to want to buy, let's say, a pair of tefillin, let's say, so he has to spend his own money on the pair of tefillin. He can't spend because it's an obligation. He can't use Meiser money for that. So let's say a pair of tefillin is $500, basic pair. So shlish b'mitzvah, you have to add on another third. So he's going to have to add on. It's going to be $750, right? So that's a third. But let's say he wants to get tefillin for 1,000. So that extra $250 is allowed to use Meiser money. That's not under the obligation. That's coming from outside. That's his own thing. He's adding to the mitzvah. Then. Okay. There's a new mission here. Kol shechavti b'shmirasei. Anything that you're obligated to guard. Hechsharti as nizkai. If you don't, then you've invited the damage to come. If you didn't guard it, that's your what's the word? Hechsharti. How do they translate that? There's two pshatim in Rashi. One pshat is that you have to rectify it. Hechsharti means that you have to make it kosher. But the other pshat is that you've invited it in. You've how do they translate it?
Responsible for safeguarding.
Anything responsible for safeguarding? How does it say? Oh, okay, that's it. Okay, no, but I'm looking for I'm missing something. I'm looking for how he translates the word sharti. I facilitated. Okay. I said invited, because Rashi says Zeman. He facilitated the damage. If he facilitated part of the damage, then then he has to pay for everything as if he did everything. Yeah, if he caused even part of the damage, then he has to pay for the whole damage. We'll see in the Gemara what that's referring to. Could be referring to digging an extra tefach in the pit. You say, I didn't dig the whole pit, I only added one tefach, right? So the person becomes responsible just for that little bit that he added, right? Or there was in the Gemara talks about a chair that they sat on, a bunch of people sitting on the chair, and one person comes at the end and sits. He says, I didn't break it, I'm just the last one. It's everyone else. Okay. Anyway, that's let's wait for the Gemara. Nechasim shein ben meila, if it's property that's not hektish. Nechasim shein shel bnei bris, property that belongs to a Jewish person. Nechasim am yichadim, but it has an owner. It means it's not ownerless. B'chol makom, in every area, every place, chutz mirushasim yichedes lamazik, except if it's in the damager's own house. You get damaged. Someone gets damaged in the house of the person that causes the damage. If he lets his animal go inside the property of a private property of and the dog or whatever comes and attacks this animal, so then I'm sorry, you don't get paid for that. That you shouldn't have gone into that property. It's just a nizik v'amazik. If it's the property of both, they both have the right to be there. That's also, you don't get paid for that. Because we'll see in the Gemara. In all of these cases, when it causes damage, the damager has to pay. To see what this mission is really adding over here. Start in the bright. Anything that he's obligated to guard, he facilitated the damage. Okay. Have a safe flight. Ketzad. Shalom says, goodbye. Ketzad, what's the case? Let's say there's a pit and an ox that the person is obligated to watch. So he gave it over to a cheir sheit v'katan. Gave it over to a child or a deaf mute or an imbecile to watch it. So he has to pay.
He's responsible for that guy.
He was responsible to guard it, and giving it to him is not guarding it.
But you're setting him up.
You gotta put somebody normal.
Right. We're not talking about the cheir sheit v'katan is chayav. We're saying the person that was supposed to guard it is chayav.
But this person is assuming he's not
the original owner, right? The original person that has to guard his ox or his pit was a regular person, with all his capacities, all his, fully capable. And this other, he gives it to someone that's not capable. Yeah.
He's the shomer.
As a shomer, gives it. He hires a shomer. It's someone that's not capable.
So
he's chayav, right? He's obligated to watch it. He's going to be chayav.
The lender is chayav. The other person is lacking. Well, I don't know why he let him be a shomer.
Yeah, and so therefore it's not counted like he guarded it. You can't say, what do you mean? I gave it to someone. Why am I making me chayav to pay? I did my best. No, it's not here. It's not a lender here. It's a damager and a damagee. Talking about an ox or a pit, an ox or a pit that caused damage. How did it cause damage? Because the person watching it wasn't careful. But over here, he gave it to someone that wasn't capable of watching it, so he's chayav. Mashenkin beish. When it comes to fire, it's different. If he gives fire to a cheir sheit v'katan, he's going to be exempt. Gemara says, "B'ma'askina, what are we talking about? What do you mean he's exempt? Are we talking about that the ox is tied? The pit was covered. He tells the guy, the child, or the cheirish, the shaita, he says, just stand here and make sure no one unties the ox, and make sure no one uncovers the pit. The kavasei gabiesh gachelas. What would be comparable to that? You see, when we're doing this comparison, we need all the variables to be the same, except for the difference between an ox and a pit and a fire. That's the only thing we want to be different. Everything else needs to be the same. So what would be comparable to that? It would be a fire, but it wasn't really a flame. It was a coal. So what's the difference? Why by the fire is he potter, and why by the ox in the pit is he chayav? Ela b'shar mutar bar megula. Must be that the ox was untied, the pit was uncovered. And he gives to the kid, he gives him a torch, gives him a burning flame. He says, here, hold this. And he hands him a torch. Mashenkin Besh the Potter. So what do you mean? He's going to be Potter for the fire. My time of the Bari Azeka. If he gives him an actual burning torch, he's going to be chayiv. When is he Potter, according to Rish Lakish in the name of Chizkiah? When he gives a child a fire, that's only if he gives him a coal. He says, watch the stove. No, don't in the stove. Watch the grill. In the grill is coals. The grill could cause a fire, but you have to blow on the coals to make it and then you have to put something there, right? You blow on the coals and then you put something there. You could make a fire from that very easy. But we're talking about his Potter because he gave him the coals. He just watch the fire pit, watch the grill. So what are you saying over here that he's going to be Potter by fire if he gives him a torch? That Rish Lakish doesn't say. It says Loilam b'shar kasher. It must be. We have to go back. Talking about that the ox is tied. Bar mechusa, and the pit was covered. Talking about that by the fire, by a Potter because it was a coal. The kamret, but you said before you had a question. Why by the ox in the pit? And when you give it to a child to watch, you're going to be chayiv when it's tied. The ox is tied, the pit is covered, and when you give a coal to the child to watch, you're going to be pater. So shar darki linatuki bar darki linaturik. Gemara goes very simple logic. It says the ox keeps pulling at the chain to go free. So it requires maintenance because you might have to do the knot again. You might have to adjust it. It keeps pulling. It keeps yanking at it. It could pull out. So it could. Those days they had ropes or whatever. And what happens with the pit? The pit has a cover on it, but the cover could be start to sag and get looser and whatever, and it could right. It requires some sort of maintenance. So over there you're going to be chayav. But gachelas Kamma Daf ma'am yam yavazla. When it comes to a coal, it's exactly the opposite. It doesn't get worse as it goes on. It goes out as it goes on. Time helps the coal be more protected, but time doesn't help the chain or the cover of the pit to be more protected. So therefore, when it comes to giving an ox or a pit over to a child to watch, we say that you're going to be chayiv because that requires maintenance. And with time, it gets worse. When you give a coal to him, it doesn't require maintenance, and with time it gets better. That's why you're going to be pater by fire and chayev by an ox and a pit. Because give him a coal, fire means a coal.
What about a pit?
If you tell him to watch a pit, make sure no one falls in here. And someone falls in, then the original person that dug the pit is going to be chayev. Because he didn't put a responsible person in charge. He put a kid. Not talking about you, Shalom.
How was the kid?
I guess on the bar mitzvah.
Yeah, that's assuming the shomer was.
Because the kid could be distracted easily. He says, "Hey, kid, you want some candy? Come over here." And then he loses. He drops the.
Assuming he wasn't cognitive. The shomer responsible.
No, a minor is always considered not responsible.
Yeah.
The shomer, the original person is going to be responsible because he put a minor in charge.
But if he wasn't a minor, he was just a normal person.
A normal person, and the shomer takes responsibility. Yeah.
Whether he's paid or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
To make the fire bigger, would have to blow.
Right.
Like what if like he uncovers a pit, or he just lets the ox loose, and that similar to like blowing the fire.
Yeah, but that's even worse. We're saying that even if he doesn't let the ox loose, even if he doesn't uncover the pit, he's still chayav. Why? Because the ox is pulling itself loose, and the cover on the pit is getting weaker every time someone steps on it. So that's why you can't give it over to a child. you're adding in, let's say he actually uncovers it, well, for sure that we gave it to a child. What are you expecting? But here we're saying even if none of that happens, you're still high because you shouldn't have given it a child. You need to give it to someone that be able to monitor the wear and tear or whatever. Right. Right. Okay. Okay, where are we holding? But also, okay. The fire goes down as time goes on. There's machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. If you give a child a fire, if you're chayav or pater for that, Rish Lakish said that if it's an actual flame, Rish Lakish says that you're chayav, in a kol you're going to be pater. According to Rabbi Yochanan, even if you give him a flame, you're also pater. Mutter bar megula. That would be comparable in our case. Give him an actual flame, your pater. That would mean that you can actually give the child, that if you would give the child an ox that's untied and a pit that's uncovered, that's similar to handing him the flame, right? So that would be the case. We're actually just asking on Rabbi Yochanan's logic. Why does Rabbi Yochanan say that your pater, when you give him a fire, the child can cause damage? It says he says that how does the fire actually start? He says it's not just holding the torch so fire starts. You have to do something with the torch. You have to go over to something and put the torch on it, and it starts a fire, right?
Not by itself.
It doesn't happen on its own. If he's just holding it in his hand, it doesn't start. He has to go and do something. So because it's not the original owner of this fire that actually did it, it takes the partnership of the cheirish to get it started. Now, whatever the cheirish does is pater. So the original owner over here is going to be pater as well. He didn't start the fire. It's this other guy that started the fire. Now, well, you want to charge him? Well, he's exempt because he's a cheirish. He's a deaf, or it's deaf for a child. Yeah.
The child is not responsible.
Right.
I want to hire the child.
On the other hand, when it comes to the ox, it doesn't have anything to do with the cheirish or the child, the deaf mute or the child. How it caused damage. It has to do with the original owner tied it up, or even if he didn't tie it up, he gave it to him. If he tied it up, it would be the same thing. No. What we're saying over here, according to Rabbi Yochanan, is that why are you chayav? Is because you didn't tie it up. What would Rabbi Yochanan say if you tied it up? That's not so clear. And Taisus is discussing this. So if you don't, according to Rabbi Yochanan, if you don't tie it up, you're going to be chayav for the ox causing damage because it's not the cheirish that caused the damage. It's the original ox that was a loose ox that caused damage. It has nothing to do with him. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, it was taught in the Brisa, Chaimer Bishar, Mi Bebar, Chaimer Bebar bin Bishar. Each one of these damages has a stringency over the other one. We're going to go through the Brisa, is going to take us to the middle of the next page. It's an easy Gemara, but it just says there's a stringency of an ox over a pit, a stringency of a pit over an ox. Stringency of the ox over their pit. What is the stringency of the ox? If the ox kills a man, he has to pay the value. He has to actually pay money, and which is different by a pit. He's not going to have to pay. You'll see in a moment. Value, yeah. Well, it's machlekes later on. We'll see if it's whose value, the guy that owned the ox or the value, but he has to pay money.
Like which land?
Right. Similar to that machlekes. That's right. He also has to pay 30 coins if he kills a slave. The set price. Nigmar dinai. To the master of the slave. The ox. The ox kills a slave. That the owner of the ox has to pay 30 coins. It's a set price. If it's a person, then it's not a set price. If it's another type of person, not a slave.
The ox needs to be killed if you kill them.
Yeah, the ox gets killed as well. Nigmar Dina, once the ox is killed, the Asrbana can't have, once not killed. Once the court case is done, you can't have any benefit from the ox. And an ox walks around. A pit doesn't walk around. A pit never becomes Asrbana, even if someone dies in it. If a pit kills a slave, it doesn't pay the 30 coins. And if a pit kills a man, it doesn't pay kaifer, doesn't pay anything. You have a special exemption of a pit with a person dies in it. So shar v'layadam, an ox but not a man. Special exemption for damages of the pit. And now we go the other way. What's the stringency of a pit versus the ox? When you dig a pit, it's immediately there to cause damage. An ox is not immediate to cause damage. It does other things. Plows, does that. It's not just there for originally causing damage. I'm sorry?
It's a good thing.
Right, there's good things about it. Muad mitchilasek. A pit is immediately a muad, forewarned to cause damage. Mashenkin bashar, but an ox, no. An ox, when it causes damage, it's not a muad, it's a tam, it's tame. Okay, now we go to another topic. An ox is different and has a stringency over fire. And fire has a stringency over the ox. What's the stringency of the ox over fire? That the ox pays kaifer, which means a payment if it kills a person. It has to pay the 30 coins if it kills a slave. Once it's brought to court, then you can't have any benefit from that ox. Now we add in, remember we learned about fire is different than an ox. And if you give it to a child by the fire, you're pater. By the ox, you're going to be chayav.
What's the difference between fire and a pit? Fire can be used for.
We didn't do yet fire from pit. Fire and pit is coming up. Now we're doing fire and ox. So the if you give the ox over to a cher sheit begotten to watch, you're chayav. Mashenkin be'esh. But if you give fire over to a cher sheit begotten, that's me with a child or an imbecile, so then you're going to be pater.
Why? Because if you give it to someone, it's not good. You should still be chayav for knowing that.
It says over here, what we're talking about is, she says that if a person dies in the fire, that if one person lit a fire, it travels to his neighbor's property, and someone dies in that fire, so then the person that lit the fire is not chayav. First of all, either you should have run away, the person, you should have gotten out. It's his problem, and even if he wasn't able to get out, so then since the person that lit the fire is chayav misa, gets the death penalty. Yeah, it would have to have been warned. The person would have to have been tied, and it was warned. If that's the case, then we say kamle b'deramini. Either way, it doesn't have to pay the money. So that's what we're saying over here.
Quick question.
Why does Rashi have to say that? Why doesn't Rashi just say that we said if you give it to we're talking about a colt, and he gave it to him. I don't know why Rashi has to do that. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think I'm probably getting a little ahead here, but the question is, do all kinds of damages fit within these 4 avos? Another way of asking is, are there damages that are not within these 4 avos?
It has to go.
That's my question also. I might also be getting a little ahead of myself.
It has to go under either one of the categories of the avos, or it has to go under the common denominator of the avos, that it's something that you can guard, that was in your responsibility to guard, or your money. Yeah, we have the common denominator of the avos includes that.
Well, if we have that, my question is, if we have that common denominator, what's the value in examining the four?
Because each one of these has different halachas. This one is chayiv in a public area. This one is pater in a public area. This one is, each one has its own halachas. This one only pays half. This one pays. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What happens with if you're just using the common denominator? You'll have to see which one is going to fit under more.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay. There's a stringency of fire over an axe. A fire is a muad right away. But an axe isn't. An axe is a tam. It starts off as a tame. It only pays half. Now is what we say. There's a stringency of fire over a pit. There's a stringency of a pit over a fire. The stringency of the pit over the fire. Start with the second one over here first. It's interesting. It immediately it causes damage. Right when you start digging the pit. The fire was maybe made for cooking. Something it wasn't. Yeah. It only caused damage after it goes into the neighbor's yard. When it comes to fire, he's going to be exempt. I don't know, it's so interesting. Rashi's. I would have assumed that it was based on the last Gemara that we said in the last Gemara that if you give it cold, and maybe that's what we're talking about, the cold. Okay. The stringency of fire over a pit. The fire moves around and causes damage. And it's also a fire consumes things even that are not fit for consumption. And you have to pay for that. But by a bar, if it consumes something, if it destroys something that wasn't fit for it, so then you're exempt. The Gemara is going to explain what that we're referring to. We didn't say the stringency in when we came to saying the stringency of the ox over the pit, which was what we started with. We left out one point. That if an ox gores vessels, breaks vessels, you have to pay. But if vessels fall into a pit, you don't have to pay. Because that seemed to be the last case over here, that the fire burns vessels, you have to pay. But if vessels fall into a pit, you don't have to pay. That was a stringency of fire over a pit. Why, when it came to the ox, didn't you say that stringency? That you're chayiv for vessels, but if vessels, utensils fall into a pit and break, you're exempt. Gemara says, even if they're attached to the ox, they only pay for the ox, not for the vessels. Mani, whose opinion is this? Rabbi Yehuda. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The mechayev on this kekelim bebar. He says that you're chayev. Just 1 second. No, we're talking about vessels falling into a pit. It doesn't possibly. We don't know. Doesn't matter. Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara says 1 second. It doesn't fit because a maseifa. Read at the end. It says chaymer be'eshmi bebar. There's a stringency of fire over a pit. That the fire will consume things even that aren't fit for it. However, by a pit, you're going to be exempt in such a case. Now, what is something that's fit for a fire? Eitzim, that's wood. What is davar shein royala? Something that's not fit for a fire? Kalim, utensils. If a fire burns utensils, that's not usually what the fire is burning, but nevertheless, you're going to be obligated. But you're going to be exempt if it falls into a pit. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, if it's going to be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says that you chayev for vessels in the pit. So why do you say the stringency of fire over a pit? Chayev in the pit as well for kalim, if it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Alaylam Rabbanani. Rather, what we're going to do with the question that we had is we're going to say that really we're not going to resolve that question. Why by the ox did we not say that yechayev if it breaks kalim, and by the pit you're going to be exempt if it breaks kalim? It says that's stuck in the case. It's rabbanani. B'tana v'shaya. We didn't give. It wasn't an exhaustive list. It didn't give every single case. It's a bunch of differences. My shayr, the high shayr, you only say this if you leave out more than one thing. If you leave out only one, then you say, you're coming to say something. But if you have a list, you leave out more than one thing, you can say, fine, I wasn't saying everything. So my shayr, the high shayr, what is it leaving out that it left this one out? It says shayr taman. It left out that a fire is exempt by taman. By if there's items that are covered over in the haystack, let's say, and the fire burns it, you only have to pay for what's exposed, not what's concealed. Okay. Ibai is same. If you want, you could say Leilam Rabbi Yehuda. Really, it is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. It's not coming to include kalim. When we said that, what about utensils? It's coming to include if it scorched the plowed field, or it destroyed it discolored the stones, made the stones black. We're going to use, so that's considered not fit for the fire. It's not talking about utensils. And you still chayiv on that. Now, however, what about the pit that you would be? What are you exempt of? Huh? No, we're saying we're following Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe it's talking about a person. Exempt if a person dies in the pit, maybe. I don't know.
We put opinion before because the person should be aware. That's why we pay for the owner of the pit pays for the ox, but not.
Right. It's just not matching up perfectly, because when those stones fall into a pit, because you can't get that. What it means is you can't get the property to fall into the pit. Is that what it says? Yeah. Mashenkin Babar Taisus says the Leishayach has a karka. Okay. Maskevla Ravashi. Ravashi has a question. Listen, we should. Why doesn't it say that an ox is more strict than a pit? If there was an animal that was a carbon, but it got a mum, so it goes out from being a carbon, it gets redeemed. So now it's considered shariyayu, considered an ox of your friend. So if an ox gores it, you have to pay. But it would have been hektish, then the halacha is different. But if now it's not hektish anymore, so you have to pay. It's considered shariyayu. But however, if it dies in a pit, the rule with a carbon that got a mum and now you're allowed to eat it, is you're only allowed to eat it. You can't do anything with the carcass if it dies. So the rule is, if something falls into a pit, it says v'hamesi alai, that you keep the corpse. The problem is by shar psuli hamikdashim, by the ox, it used to be a carbon. There's no value to that corpse because you can't do anything with it. It's not like you can feed it to an animal or something like the animal food. So this would be no. It has to do with because it was once sanctified. It can't be mistreated. You're only allowed to eat it, but you can't do other things with it.
You said a corpse.
I mean a corpse. I mean the carcass of the animal. I mean a corpse. The carcass of the animal. You can't. You only if it was shechted. But if it died in a pit, you're allowed to eat it if it was shechted. If it dies in the pit, you can't even give it to to an animal. So you could have said that there's a stringency of the ox over the pit. So it says, if it's we follow the Rabbanan, I did the Shayar Hach Shayanamiach. So if we're following the Rabbanan, we said, well, we weren't giving an exhaustive list. We left out Taman, we left out Kalim. Okay. No, Kalim, we said we left out Taman, and we left out Yeah, we left out kalim when we spoke about the ox. Stringency of the ox over the pit. So Eliyam, it's Rabbi Yehuda, my shaya the high shaya. But if it's Rabbi Yehuda, why don't we mention this one? So it's shir dash benirai. If an ox tramples over property that was plowed, a field that was plowed, so you have to pay for that. But it's not possible for a plowed field to fall into a pit. Imisham dash benira lav shiuru. If it's dash benira, if it's trampling a field that was plowed, that's not considered leaving out one of the details. That the hatana shekain dak leil chulahazik. You already said one of the stringencies of the ox is that an ox is something that moves around. So obviously, if that's already included in that, moving around means that it could trample on that, but a pit can't. So we already said that. So we don't have an answer for this. It seems like the Gemara is concluding that this price would be the opinion of the Rabbana, not Rabbi Yehuda. Let's leave it over here.